Welcome to the Junior High Auxiliary Tambourine Etude. In this etude, we're going to talk about the techniques that Marshall used to bring the etude to life. We're going to talk about the meter and the dynamics. But first, we're going to talk about the variety of instruments that we can choose to bring to this etude. Most of us have seen some sort of tambourine in our band hall, and sometimes they have heads, sometimes they don't. They certainly have a bunch of different types of jingles. We're going to start with something you might find in a church or a rock band, that kind of a thing, and there's a really important use for this, but if you have the option to buy a tambourine with a head, we certainly recommend it because of the playing techniques that we're offering. So the way that we're going to strike this is pretty limited in terms of backbeats and rhythms that way, but anything subtle that requires a head, we're going to demonstrate. So I'll take a tambourine, and then Marshall's going to take a tambourine. This is a really great instrument made by Grover. Instrument that Marshall's holding is made by Black Swamp. Any quality tambourine from the manufacturer of your choice will work as long as you feel good about the quality of sound you're getting from the combination of the head itself and the type of jingle. The jingles could be beryllium copper, they could be normal copper, they could be German silver, they could be combinations of those different instances. There's no wrong professional tambourine to purchase, really one that suits you and your band program. Now, getting back to the etude, now that we've got our headed tambourine, the very first thing you saw Marshall talk about in his performance was a knuckle strike. So there are many ways to get great sounds out of the tambourine, and the very first beat on beat 4 of your etude is a knuckle strike, as demonstrated by Marshall here. You can hear he's playing right in the center, and you hear this really neat pop out of the instrument. So we're going to compare that with what I call the puppet technique. So Marshall's going to put his 4 fingers together with his thumb, and he's going to play the same dynamic, and you'll hear it sound different. So it has a little bit more of a rounded sound. It doesn't have quite as sharp of an accent. Hence, that's why it's sforzando. Right off the bat, we have contrast, and we go down to piano, and now we have 2 fingers. So Marshall's going to play some 8th notes at 2 fingers. Just play some 8th notes for us. Do you hear how light and crisp that is? That's 2 reasons. Number 1 is because he's using 2 fingers, and he's really getting less mass to activate the jingles, but the angle that he's playing with is the other reason. So we're going to demonstrate a couple things. So Marshall, if you'll put the tambourine perfectly 90 degrees like this, most people think, oh, it's going to be dry now when I play. Well, if we do that, we play 1 note, there's something called jingle residue. So gravity doesn't affect left or right. So why don't you try it on yours, Marshall? So there's still a little bit of residue. And of course, if we go perfectly flat, it's better. So if I play 1 note, or in this case, it's actually a little worse. So the jingle residue is still there. Let's hear what it sounds like on yours. Aha, so there's still a little bit of residue. So what we want to do is we want to tilt the tambourine just enough, depending on the manufacturer and the type of jingle, maybe 10%, maybe 15%, and you want to find that magical spot where gravity is pulling the jingles quickly to settle. So the difference between this and this, and now I find my gravity sweet spot, it immediately finds gravity to be our greatest muting device. So let's try that on your tambourine, Marshall. So when you're setting up to play, students, be mindful of where you hold. Typically, there's a hole in all professional tambourines. That's for the ability to be mounted. Typically, that's also where you take your non-dominant hand. I'm right-handed. Marshall?
Right-handed.
There you go. So we're going to hold right there where that mounting hole is with our left hand. I like to keep my thumb out of the way instead of doing this because we might inadvertently muffle the top head. So we keep that thumb out of the way. I like just to keep it on the rim like that. And then from this point, our dominant hand is free to play with 1 finger, 2 fingers, like Marshall demonstrated, all fingers. We can do puppet technique. We can lay our forearm on. We can do muffled overtones. There are so many colors this instrument can provide us. Now let's go to the next phrase here, Marshall. Now we have all fingers that crescendos, 1 te, te 3. So he's thinking about the weight and the crescendo, and he's using more mass in his hand to inflect that. And then finally we have our shake roll. Our shake roll starts from piano, and so you saw in the performance, Marshall finishes that phrase on beat 3, all fingers, then he drops down to the side, and at this point, now we lean into the 90 degrees. We want our shake roll to start here. We don't want to start from a dry place like this, because that's not resonant. We find the most resonant spot here, and then in the shake roll, that's going to be very, very easy for us to assimilate at a sustain. So again, beat 3 he finishes, and we drop down to our side so it's a little softer, and then as you start the shake roll, it's just a little bit of a turn, a rotation here, and then you'll watch him bring it up like he did it in the performance video, and then we have beat 1, we arrive with a knuckle, I believe, and then from the fist articulation. So we're gonna watch Marshall show us the fist articulation, which is really, really strong. And then we have the decrescendo phrase all the way back down to 2 fingers. So Marshall, can you start on the shake roll, sir? And we'll bring it up and watch how he brings it up. It's going to give us the semblance of being louder. We have the fist articulation, then he brings it back to soft into 2 fingers. And you can take fingers away to play lighter and lighter. You can go all fingers, 4, 3, 2, and all the way to 1, where it's almost impossible to hear. If you like the overtone series, then don't let your forearm touch the head. If you want it to be even more delicate, you can rest your forearm like this. Super clear. And of course, from that point, you can play all kinds of very, very delicate rhythms. So have fun with this etude. Take advantage of Marshall's performance video, and happy practicing. Great job, Marshall.